In this pod, we'll find out about the writer Jonny Pitts. Jonny Pitts is a television presenter, writer, and photographer from Sheffield. And his first book, Afropean Notes from Black Europe, has been changing the way that people see the lives of Europeans of African descent. Before writing Afropean, Pitts drew on his personal story to write a documentary for the BBC. His mother is a white Englishwoman, and his father is an African American. He is part black, part white, part English, part American. The 2015 BBC radio documentary explored his search to find out more about his father's family in New York. Navigating a way between these two cultures and these two identities is a recurring theme in his work. When Pitts wanted to go traveling, he noticed there was hardly any information available on Black people in Europe, such as the places they lived, socialized, and came together. So Jonny created Afropean.com, a place where Black Europeans could share their experiences and build an online community. In describing the project, Pitts writes, Afropean. Here was a space where Blackness was taking part in shaping European identity. A continent of Algerian flea markets, Surinamese shamanism, German reggae, and Moorish castles. Yes, all of this was part of Europe too, and these were people and places it needed to understand and embrace if it wanted fully functional societies. And Black Europeans too need to demand the right to document and disseminate our stories. With my brown skin and my British passport still a ticket into mainland Europe at the time of writing, I set out in search of the Afropeans on a cold October morning. The term Afropean was first coined by Belgian-Congolese musician Marie Don, whose band Zap Mama fuses African vocal techniques with hip-hop. Pitts felt the term opened up the possibility of living with more than one cultural identity, showing that a person could be both African and European. His desire to understand more about the lives of Black people in Europe was not only influenced by his own experiences, but by the work of writers like Frantz Fanon, who explored the impact of colonialism and racism on society. This lasting legacy speaks to the phrase, "We are here because you were there," and the term Afropean provides an answer to the question of why European countries have a Black population at all. Pitts didn't set out to be a writer. He was a keen musician, a television presenter, and a photographer. But when he read An African in Greenham by Tete Michel Pomasi, he began to see a place for himself as a working-class writer with brown skin. He is also influenced by the writer Carol Phillips, another Black writer from the north of England who has acted as a mentor to Pitts. The observations made by Pitts in his book highlight the disparity between ideals of tolerance and inclusivity and the lived realities of many Europeans of African origin. Pitts often finds Black Europeans on the outskirts of cities pushed into impoverished areas where resources are scarce and so much of their day-to-day lives is dictated by the decisions of politicians. Pitts's focus is to explore Black Europe from the street up and find out what it means to be Afropean. He wanted to show that being Black in Europe didn't necessarily mean being an immigrant. His book combines travel writing with autobiography, history, and photojournalism and challenges the reader to view Europe through his eyes, seeing the people who are often invisible to the typical continental tourist.